Hey guys, we're back at the track today, or one of the tracks that I have here at my place, and I wanted to do a quick video on balance ramps. So balance ramps are something that you can build relatively easily without a lot of space, and you can get a ton of skill out of them. And what's also cool about balance ramps in general is that you can build something very simple, and then you can just kind of work your way up. So I have 3 of them here in this little area, and I wanted to kind of share my thoughts on kind of why I think they're useful and why I would recommend them if you want to build something or you have a little area for a track. So I think a good place to start is literally just taking a board. This is a teeter-totter. It's actually not very hard at all. You can see it's actually pretty hard to build because you got to weld it together. Yeah, it's fun. I would say it's not very hard at all, but a good place to start is just take a board, take a 4x6 board like that, preferably 12 feet long, and just lay it on the ground. Literally just lay it on the ground and then just ride over it and try to keep your wheels on it. There's absolutely no way you're going to get hurt doing that. And it'll really teach you it'll teach you really good control of tire placement and staying nice and upright on the bike and really controlling your bike with your lower body. It'll also, teach you how to make subtle changes in direction when you're kind of rolling across a linear object. So that sounds pretty boring, and it kind of is, but it's a really good place to start. The next place I think to start isn't really with a teeter-totter. In my opinion, a teeter-totter is kind of, I don't know, it's actually not that helpful. It doesn't really teach you anything other than what a board does, and outside of just encouraging you to keep calm when it teeter-totters to the other side. I think the next thing I would do is just literally take a board like that and slant it up and make a simple ramp. And that'll teach you, that'll force you to focus a little bit more intensely on not coming off the ramp, right? On not coming off the sides. And it'll teach you how to maintain your momentum, right? And clear something without needing a lot of traction, right? So I show this kind of obstacle to people, and they're like, well, it's wood, there's no traction. It's like, well, you don't really need traction. You're gonna ride this thing just with straight momentum. You're gonna come perfectly straight. You're gonna have very good control over your wheels, right? You wouldn't try that. You wouldn't try this obstacle until you do, and you're just literally gonna ride over it. And at the very end, you do have to have some control of jumping, I guess. You don't need to start this high. This obstacle is probably, I don't know, almost 3 feet tall or 4 feet tall, but you don't need to start this high. You can start much lower, and then just, work your way to where you can really control and feel what those tires are doing under you, right? Yeah, and then, at the same time, you can build something like this over here. This is basically the same thing. It's longer and more committing. Obviously, the longer it is, the harder it is gonna be to stay on. But this is a nice obstacle because it's really long, and so you can really test yourself with having control over the dirt bike under you. And what's cool about it is it's high enough to where, it's not trivial, and it's more interesting than being off the ground, but it's not so high where you're gonna get hurt if you fall. When you get good enough to ride over this stuff, you just figure out that you can kind of wheelie off, right? And it's not really a big deal. So yeah, this is a really good one. Yeah, this is probably a little bit harder to build just because it's a lot more lumber and a lot heavier. But yeah, super awesome. And with all these obstacles, I mean, I get a lot of people who are like, well, that's just nuts. Why would I want to do that? And it's like, well, you do it because you're building gradual skill, right? And you certainly you don't just build something like this and just try to ride it and cross your fingers. It's a progression. I mean, you start with a board on the ground, then you angle that board up a little bit, right? And then you just kind of keep working your skills until you can ride, you can ride that, and then you can ride that angled ramp over there, and then you can ride something much harder, which I have in a different location, right? And then once you have control over those wheels, I mean, riding any of these obstacles really is about, a lot of it is about, well, learning how to crash and learning how to jump off, but a lot of it is just about like understanding momentum, right? having control over wheel placement, having control over forward to backward balance on the bike. And you'd be surprised how a simple obstacle like a slanted ramp or a slanted board is going to really help you in doing that. And again, a lot of these obstacles, you know, they're pretty fancy. Oh, look at that, the cows got in my obstacle here and destroyed that. Well, I'm gonna have to fix that. But my point is you don't have to build something this big and this elaborate to get, you know, 80% of the skills, right? You can just literally build an angled ramp. So I'll go to the other area and I'll show the larger angled ramp I have, which is kind of where I'm at with that skill set. And I'm already thinking about making it narrower. So, all right, let's go to the other area. All right, guys, we're back here at this this other riding area that I have on my property, and this is kind of what I call the middle track. It's basically you know, it's kind of a track that I built with a bunch of turns and jumps and obstacles. And I've yeah, it's been pretty sweet. I've really worked on it in the past year, and it's really come along. But what I wanted to show you guys is just the extension of the balance ramps, right? So over here we have the most challenging balance ramp I have. And again, this is a progression of what I was talking about before. You know, you start with a basic board on the ground, and then you angle it, and then maybe you get it off the ground, and then you can work your way up to doing something like this. And, you know, for a lot of people, they look at that and they say, well, that just seems pretty stupid. It's not stupid. It actually, working your way up to clearing an obstacle like this is a progression, and it's a progression in skill. The first skill you have to figure out is how to keep your wheels in line and how to keep your balance. Then you have to figure out how to keep your momentum so you don't need traction up the face of this ramp. You just carry your momentum. And then you have to figure out how to jump off of it. And it's really just a progression. And when you kind of work through that progression, right, of getting better, it's really not a very hard obstacle. Everything kind of comes together, but it just takes time. And again, it's all about getting better. And this progressing to an obstacle like this forces you to get better. And that's kind of what I like. That's kind of what, you know, works for me, and what kind of gets me excited about things is just getting better and forcing myself to get better through progression of harder and harder obstacles, right? The idea is not to hurt yourself. The idea is not to crash. The idea is just to simply get better and to force yourself and challenge yourself to get better and progress with your skill, right? So if you guys have any ideas or comments or you know, ideas for things you want me to discuss or share with these little track areas that I have, just let me know. I'm happy to share the things that I've learned and the mistakes I've made. And yeah, just let me know. All right, thanks guys.